Aloha, everybody. Welcome back to the Wall Street Coach podcast. My name is Ann Curtin, and I am very excited to have Jeremy Aguiar on my podcast today. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm doing great, Kim. How about yourself?
I'm doing very good, very good. Very happy to get to do this podcast with you. We got to do an X Space a couple of months ago, and I had a power outage that day, so we couldn't do this first part of the conversation. So we're doing it today, which is kind of magical because I get to spend time with you again. So I'm glad about that.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
You know, I want to just speak a little bit about your bio for those who may not know you. You have a tendency, in my opinion, to kind of fly under the radar. You're not a flashy guy who's out there, even though you have so much wisdom to share. So for those of you who aren't following Jeremy, you're going to get his handle in this podcast notes. But just so you have some context, Jeremy has been trading for 17 years. He started at one of Chicago's largest prop firms, and he transitioned to trading on his own about 8 years ago. He day trades equity options. He specializes in news, events, unusual option activity, stocks in play, and theme-based trading. How come you do kind of stay a little bit under the radar, Jerry, with all the wisdom you've acquired?
Well, two parts. I just kind of enjoy it. I enjoy just the being able to focus on my trading and, my own business that way. And also my style of trading doesn't really, it's not very good for very quickly sharing, opinions and insights of what I'm doing. I'm very quick reactionary trader. And, if it's a good trade, I'm in and out in a couple minutes usually. So the stuff that I'm looking at, there's not much that I get to share that way. And even throughout the trading day, it would be more almost, a distraction to try to be doing that stuff. So just kind of focus on myself and my process, and when and if the ability to, to share some of my thoughts and things come out like this, I'd definitely love to do it.
Yeah, that's part of why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because I feel, you have so much wisdom and you have so much experience, and you have a deep thoughtfulness about you. And that thoughtfulness, I think, is really important for traders to be exposed to. I don't know that all traders are as thoughtful as they could be. What do you feel, perhaps, if you agree with me, contributes to that construct of being thoughtful about, you're very intentional in how you trade and how you live? What do you attribute that to for your own journey?
Okay. I mean, you know it right away. Honestly, a lot of the coaching work has helped with that a lot. When you work for yourself, trying to find a way to keep yourself accountable is not very easy. And, being able to do some coaching work, which, I have done with you in the past and have greatly, greatly enjoyed. It kind of allows you to have a little bit more of that accountability and insight into your process and how you're trading. And then you learn really quickly because, I think some of the first work I did with you, you think you're going to start talking about trading, and you might have two entire sessions where you don't talk about trading whatsoever. And you talk about your personal life and how things might be affecting your trading. And you see how quickly it's all extremely, extremely correlated. And I like that part of the process. It's cool. Remember one of the first Traders for Cause events I went to, and you hear people speak about you kind of have to live and die, trading in your career, and you should be thinking about it 24/7. And I was like, man, I'm like someone when the markets close, I just want to get out and go do something else. I don't want to think about trading anymore. And it made me think about it for a sec. The stuff that I do enjoy is the personal work around, for myself, that correlates both just to my personal life and then to trading as well too. So I love dedicating my time to working on my mindset and, my growth process and the coaching and all that. And it's an enjoyable experience for me, for sure.
Yeah. When you first started trading, 17 years is a long time. Can you see that how you came into it? Where and how do you feel it's different with regards to not just mindset, although that too, but what do you feel is like the biggest pivot over those 17 years just for yourself?
Man, that's hard. I mean,
Big
you're
question.
an entirely different person at the age of 41 than 24. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know what I was getting myself into when I first started trading.
Yeah.
I got a really good job offer. It sounded fun. I wanted to try it.
Hmm.
And I mean, that was just nothing but a learning process from the beginning. And you don't know yourself at that point. You don't really know what you might want out of that career, if you like that career and what it is. So, I mean, I'd say just from going into it with complete, you know, naivety about what this might possibly be, um, to where I'm at now, where it's, something that I feel I'm very good at, I'm comfortable with, it fits me very well, and I truly, really enjoy doing.
This is a curveball question, but what about you is the same?
Um, that I know I never really wanted to work for anyone else. Like, didn't really enjoy what most people would see like a typical 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
But the parts of even when I started my career that I couldn't stand, if you had to do some like Excel sheet work after work, or you had to do like the little BS work for the boss or the guy that you were like learning under. Like I genuinely hated that type of work. And then I got obviously the ability to eventually just do it for myself, where you're just accountable to yourself. You're working with yourself, and it's kind of like your game, like you're playing against yourself a little bit. And I knew I could recognize that I didn't like the other side of that early on, and that I
Hmm.
always wanted something different. And then now I, have the luxury and the ability to have that for myself.
Yeah. Uh, do you feel that there is one belief about trading that you had to let go of for you to up level?
Yeah, probably like the all or nothing personality of things a little bit.
Would you
That
talk more about that?
you don't have to kill every single trade that you do. Everything doesn't have to be massive home run. You don't have to get everything all at once, and changing it to like a daily getting better, growing type process. I think is a really big change for sure.
Yeah. When do you think that really landed for you?
Uh it's hard to even say like it ever like truly completely does, but in the last like I'd say post 2021-ish a little bit, 22.
Yep.
Uh where 20 and 21 were like super, I won't say easy trading years, but you can get away with doing a lot of stuff, and it for my style it fit very well and was good. And then things really slowed down in 2022.
Hmm.
And at that point, if you didn't slow down with the market as well too, it was pretty easy to give a good amount back. Um, and then learn after that, you don't, it allowed me, well, it forced me, it took me longer to recognize it than I would have liked, forced me to kind of scale back a little bit too, and then kind of like
Hmm.
rebuild really good habits and, how I wanted to look at my day-to-day process. And that was, looking back, like a really good thing, actually.
Would you be comfortable sharing some of those day-to-day habits that, you feel are how you form your days template wise, just for those traders who perhaps are trading similar to you or not, but just for them to have a sense of how you do this as a business owner, so to speak?
Yeah, I think being super aware of how you're starting your day, and that was something me and you worked on a good amount. And I do try to meditate a little bit before each day, and then probably about a half hour before the market, just check in on like what's my goal for the day, how am I feeling that morning, what am I looking to do, and just like not just showing up at the desk like ready to trade, but like showing up with intention, ready to trade, and knowing kind of what you're looking for when you do, just more of like a little bit of a process to it, I'd say.
Mhm. And the days that perhaps you come to the market, without the ability to really be intentional or just not feeling well physically, mentally, or emotionally, how do you navigate those days if you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, sure. I think you're aware of it then. I might know like, oh, I had a dinner last night and I was out later than I would want to be and I don't feel fully rested. Like you're aware of it instead of just going at your day the same way you would otherwise. So it already starts you on a little bit of a not defensive, but like just again more aware process of okay, I might not be my full self this morning.
Mhm.
If you notice that you're trading anything differently or you have some urge to maybe trade differently than you usually would,
Mm.
honestly, at that point, luckily, it does not really happen for me very often, but if it does, just stop trading for the day. Like I would rather do that. And more times than not now, I'll actually know like if there's something going on in my life where I know the next day I might not be able to be fully, you know, prepared and be at my best for the day, like I'll just not work that day, just not trade that day. And I think more times than not, way better off, even if you want to like relax a little bit, then take 3 hours a day and do some like whatever other stuff evolves your trading that is not trading itself, where it's catching up on like reviewing your trades or that kind of stuff. Like you can still be productive and do good work, but if you know you're not gonna, be at your best, like more times than not, it's better just to not be trading. There's always gonna be another day.
If you're, what would stop you from doing that in the past? And what do you think stops other traders from giving themselves that R and R when they need it?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of FOMO about missing out on a trading day. I mean, you never know when the opportunities are going to come.
Yeah.
And then maybe just like you feel like you should. Like, oh, I could trade tired, like I'm fine. There's no reason that I'm not. Like maybe a little bit of I have some guilt sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, ah, well, I could take the day off and just go sit by the pool, or I could trade. And there's no reason I can't trade. But the reason is that, I might be tired or I might be busy and you're not like fully there for that day. And at that point, you're 100% better off. There's no reason to feel guilty on it. You are better off spending your time, in other productive ways and getting back to trading, when you're ready for it.
If, I just want to tell the listeners, Jeremy and I had a conversation before this where I asked his permission to talk about some of what he experienced with the coaching. So this is not a curveball question for Jeremy. It's important to know that because coaching is such a sacred, in my opinion, a sacred dynamic. But Jeremy did agree that it was okay to ask questions. So this question is, I'm just curious, what part of the coaching process challenged you the most with the work we did? If you could talk as superficially or deep as you want, but I'm just
Right.
kind of curious.
I mean, for us specifically, it was being self-aware of some things in my, personal trading setup and experience that maybe were not fitting for me too much longer, and that it was, a change that I had to maybe look at doing. So it definitely gave me it was a huge positive in the fact that I had some assistance and some insight into like, hey, what might actually be best for me and kind of
Mhm.
give me the strength to go out and make those decisions in that manner.
Mhm.
But those are never easy to face or do at the moment. So for an overarching thing, it's another insight. If you truly go into any sort of coaching with an open mind and some trust in the process in it, like you could learn a lot about yourself and your abilities and what might be there for you. And that was something that was very, very beneficial to me.
Awesome. Do you feel that traders who are struggling, perhaps they're listening to this conversation, uh, what do you think that perhaps somebody who's struggling needs to hear, not just to potentially, be inspired, but what do they need to perhaps learn how to accept or perhaps face, so to speak?
Well, it depends what you're struggling with, but I think accept like you're not going to be perfect and you can't be perfect and you shouldn't be. It's like literally impossible. So like if you're struggling and you're trying to make progress, and I could see an example for myself, like if I had a few like risk management rules that I was always working on and I'd be great on them 90% of the time. And then you'd have 10% where you're not. And those 10%, especially in our business and what we do, they can wipe off a lot of that 90% of doing stuff well. And there'd be times I'd get pissed at myself. It's like, man, you've been working on this for so long. You put so much time and effort in this. Like, how the fuck is this still happening? How do you let that happen? And you have to recognize that it's literally impossible to be perfect. And if
Mhm.
you take the mindset instead of just trying to learn from those experiences, like if you can not be mad at yourself in that time period and be like, okay, now I recognize this is a flaw or part of a flaw in my trading process or how I approach things. And now it's an opportunity for me to change that and to
Mhm.
get better at it.
Mhm.
Like then you have like some positive like momentum or you can feel good about the process.
Yep.
So if you just commit to just knowing that you just want to get a little bit better every single day,
Mhm.
and there's going to be, it might be 5 steps forward, one backwards, but that one backwards is just another learning process. So next time it's 10 steps forward and one back, just
Yeah.
have to be able to accept those things and have some like grace for yourself in it,
Mhm.
and then use that to better yourself.
Beautiful. Do you have any personal rules or kind of mental non-negotiables that keep you uh, coming back to that truth? How do you notice?
I think I understand your question. I was going to say for my trading process itself, I do have two very specific rules on my risk management. And I think for me, I think everybody's different. I actually remember Stan at the last investor or IU thing talking about for him, when he got like really secure and confident in himself, he
Who
didn't
is
want
this?
strict.
Who?
Um, Stan. He was one of the
Yeah,
speakers
sure.
um, at Traders for Cause
Yeah,
this
I
last.
just didn't hear you say Stan. Sorry. Yeah.
Um, and he specifically spoke on he didn't want strict rules for himself anymore once he got to the confidence level where like his rule was like just being true to himself and how he's trading.
Mm.
For me, that process did not really work. And having like just very specific, like when I'm down this dollar amount, I'm going to close half my position and I'm never going to add to a position that I'm down that dollar amount in.
Mm.
And once I just decided like, hey, these are my like strict rules for myself, it's been night and day easier for me because there's no like bending for yourself. And yeah, I guess in an ideal world, I'd like to just be able to be like so accountable. Like you said, you're not going to do this, don't do this. And I
Yeah.
think everyone's personality is different for that. So you probably have to learn what like truly, truly works for you.
Yep.
And having that like kind of hard rule, like, hey, I'm gonna stick to this every single day, that works great for me. But you have to like, I guess, experiment, work through those things and find, what works best for you.
100%. That assessment that I use for traders measures a person's willingness or comfort or tendency to follow directions, and I happen to follow directions precisely. I have like a 0.
Okay.
So I have learned that actually getting specific directions helps me, right? But if somebody perhaps has a different score, that doesn't follow directions precisely, they probably would be served with Stan Ivanov. I presume you're talking about
Yeah.
Stan, right?
Yeah.
So Stan's, I remember his talk, and that construct worked for him, for his, like you said, his temperament. So it just that self-awareness is just so important. I love that you brought that up because that probably really serves him, but for you, it wouldn't. It
For sure.
doesn't.
And that's like the most important thing to me is that you have to take the time to like to be insightful with yourself and get to learn these things because the same in that process could be really different for two different people, but both be really, really good for them.
Yeah.
Same as some people might need to like study charts for on Sunday nights or work super late, and some other people like want to spend their time working on the personal side of this, and that's what makes them a better trader. So it can't be different for everyone. You can't try to follow somebody else's lead, but like you do have to put the work in
Yeah.
to learn about yourself, and that's I think something where coaching is extremely helpful. Again, especially when if you're trading by yourself. I did come from a background where you had an infinite amount of resources around you between like the group that you traded with, then like your risk manager, then this experienced group of amazing traders around you to like just you for everything. And like it's pretty hard to like completely have, I said, A, accountability, and then B, just like really learn and have a chance to like be reflectful on what's going on with you without somebody else like on your side or someone else that you could talk to and speak about those things. So like especially for people who, are trading on their own or are looking to kind of to grow and to build on them, like I would recommend coaching 10 times out of 10.
Jeremy, how was that transition coming out of that prop firm where not only did you get to presumably share ideas and encourage each other or harass each other, give you ribbings, but also just have that energy around you? How shocking was it when you did transition to trading on your own for you? How difficult was
Yeah,
that?
I mean, there's two parts of it. I definitely do miss the camaraderie of having other guys around and trading with other people all the time. I do have friends on Discord that I do speak to during not the trading out. So I still have that. It's not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the exact same it was. Then another way is it's kind of freeing. Like I don't think I evolved into who I was as a trader until like you don't the guardrails are gone. Like you don't have to worry about like what the other guy you're trading with, are you going to affect his trades because of what you're doing? Or
Yeah.
does, your boss or whoever, they might not think the same way you do about your trade. So you have to like, I want to do this, but they're not going to approve of it, or this isn't what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like getting rid of all that and just having the freedom to like the creative freedom. This is how I want to trade. This is how I see things, and I can attack what I want. Like it's almost like overnight growth, to be honest. So there's something really awesome about that.
Yeah. Do you feel that your self-awareness contributed to the decision to go solo? Did you feel like you were being kind of maybe limited or held back in those areas you spoke to?
Yeah, a little bit. It just was kind of somewhat of a natural transition from who I was working for at the
Mhm.
time to like, hey, the possibility to transition to working for yourself is on the table, and I wanted it like really bad at that point. Like, so there was no like reservations, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like I wasn't overly seeking it out, but the
Mhm.
opportunity was like slowly presenting itself, and then it was like, yes, 10,000%. This is what I want.
Yep. Yep. What do you feel has surprised you the most over these almost 2 decades with regards to the markets and with regards to your own mindset or approach?
Markets is how quickly things change.
Mm.
And like you 100% need the ability to adapt and to change along with that. Anytime you're trying to fight the market or force what your strategy might have been or was or what you want it to be, it just it's a losing cause. Like that's just not going to work. So two sides, like being able to stick to your convictions of what does work for you, but being able to adapt inside of that to how markets change and how quickly they change too. That part is wildly important.
Mhm. What do you think separates a trader who wants success from one who actually secures that consistency?
Yeah. I mean, one part is putting the work in. And again, that work could be a million different things. It could be working on your strategy, reviewing your process like crazy, seeking out and finding, other trading pod members or whatever, or it can be, working on your personal mindset and recognizing where things work for you or they don't work for you. And also like anyone who thinks that just like you're gonna be an overnight success or you're gonna make money like that, like you have to have the right mentality and look at it more of a as a business and something that you want to have prolonged and long-term success in and not, look at it on a day-to-day basis, but on a like a slow growth build basis is definitely very helpful.
Hmm. It's just some, curious questions. There are those traders who are unsure about, how to display their P&L or to be constantly conscious of it. What are some of those kind of details that you practice for yourself?
Yeah, I used for a very long time. I did not keep my P&L up whatsoever, and it did work. But then got to the point where what I was doing for my risk management rules, I wanted to be extremely, extremely aware of where things were all the time. So I'm like way past the, like, especially once you can get to the mindset of, okay, you're not trading off of your P&L,
Hmm.
but I should and need to be, I don't want to keep it hidden because I'm afraid that I'm going to trade differently because I see how I am. Like I'm past that point. So that might be one thing that in a
Yeah.
relation stand, now that I have a trust for myself in that, I'd
Yeah.
rather be overly aware of what's going on and not have something kind of just off in the background that I'm not paying attention to. So did that for a very long time, but now I do keep it up all the time.
Yep. Any other kind of behaviors that you now practice that serve the overarching goal?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones, and it's kind of new for me too, is just money management.
Hmm.
It's another one that Brian Lee talked about this at one or more of the Traders for Cause events, but and I didn't even honestly didn't put a lot into it at the time, but super easy example. Say you have 10 grand in your trading account
Hmm.
and you turn that 10 grand into 50 grand or 100 grand and you never withdraw cash and you don't pay yourself and that money's just sitting there like it, at least for me, and I think for a lot of other people, like the way that you might attack your trading is going to look a little bit different. You feel like you have this big buffer, you have more capital in your account. It doesn't feel as bad if you lose 10 grand of that or 20 grand of that when you're at, where you are with it. Um, and it just allows you to have like this, I think it opens you up for much bigger swings. So like having some sort of set process, if you have 10 grand and that turns into 20, you take out 5 or you take out 10. And in the same mindset, if you did that and tens your baseline and then you lost, you lose 5 today, you don't put 5 in tomorrow and then you lose 5 again, put another 5 in. Like a process of like how and when you're gonna recapitalize your account,
Hmm.
that kind of helps, govern your swings and govern when things are going very, very well. Like you're paying yourself, you're taking stuff off the table and you're getting back to baseline. And when things aren't going so well, you're not just feeding cash back into the account nonstop. Like it forces you to like trade a little bit smaller, be a little bit more aware of what you're doing in your process, build that back up naturally a little bit, and then your confidence is back there too. You're not trying to get it all back at once or anything like that. So for me, that's been extremely helpful.
That's beautiful. Yeah, Brian, I think it's like, his mantra. He's just always putting so much emphasis on that. And I think also because he too is very much thoughtful. He is
Yeah,
thoughtful about his own journey, and then he works his way through it and then shares that with every other trader. Like, this is what I had to navigate, so here's how I navigated it. Just
for sure. Yeah, I've always really enjoyed any of his speeches.
really they're very other focused. They're really on like who's listening to him, how that can help them,
Yeah,
which, is not the case for all those at that level, you
yeah, I
included.
agree. I agree.
All right. So what's one thing that's helped you kind of make this leap to the level that you do live at now? What do you feel there that nobody talks about that helped you get to where you are now?
I think I just want to get back again to the acceptance of a process and learning from mistakes and growth. I mean, you think about the amount of ups and downs you're going to have in a 17 career, then like in 8 years by yourself and managing that by yourself. Like there's going to be a lot, and um, you need to have the ability to be able to deal with those swings and that ups and downs, and having without losing any confidence in yourself. So being able to keep confidence throughout that process in those times.
Yeah.
Um, I mean that's very helpful. And just again, just making sure you're learning the entire time and you're evolving and changing
Mhm.
because there's no way to do this for very prolonged periods of time and have sustained success without being able to adapt and to change and to grow and to learn. So just to summarize that, just being open and wanting to learn every single day.
Mhm.
Um, being able to keep your confidence through ups and downs, and then being open to adapting and changing and
Mhm.
being just malleable to the market.
Yeah. Is there a moment in the trading journey that you've had that made you really stop and go, wow, did I just really do that?
Um, Honestly, not really. And I think what's been helpful for me is I never get too up and never get too down on it.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's just again more or less slow growth and a feel good in the process part. And I guess I can't say there was the first time I hit like a certain P&L threshold for myself. I do remember being very happy about it, maybe a little cocky about it.
Hmm.
And like, okay, then as soon as that part was gone, I was like, okay, I could accept that this felt really good to do once now.
Hmm.
And now, let's get back to being humble and just grow and look at this process for what it is and not get too up or too down in any of it.
It's such a beautiful thing to speak to because that even keeledness will help anybody weather any storm, right? Not get
For
too
sure.
down, not get too filled with hubris.
Yeah, because in this bit, like it's just as easy as it can come, it can go too. So if you're coming at it in a mentality that, you're the shit and this is gonna be that way, and it goes back to the money management stuff, same kind of like mindset. Like,
Yeah.
second you think that way too, like market's just gonna smack you and that money will be gone. And if you can't control and be more, have a good baseline and even kill it throughout it,
Yeah.
you know, it's really hard to make it through for the long term.
During the difficult times that you've had when there has been, for lack of a better term, a losing streak, what uh maybe you talk about how it used to be, maybe you talk about the most recent way you've navigated, but I'm just curious, just a little bit around how do you navigate those for yourself and for those who might be listening who are in the midst of one now? What
Yeah.
would you advise them?
I don't know. Whether it's been like blind ignorance or like I don't know what it is, but I've never allowed myself to like not still have the confidence that I'm going to turn this around and things are going to get better.
Mhm.
And I think if you do have like a process for yourself and something you're committed to, and you're confident in that process and what you've done, so if you've done it for long enough now, like you can recognize like say the market does change for a little bit and it's harder to make money, like okay, I could look back at the last 17 years and see how wildly different I've traded in a million of those different scenarios. So like that it takes, one day, 1 week, like things change just really quickly. So as long as
Wow.
are prepared and you come, as your best self to the market every day with like a confidence and like an open mind to the market, like I just have no doubt that, I'll be able to turn something around.
Hmm. Yep. Uh, so, advice to those who perhaps are struggling, what would you say to them that they need to check? Because to have that confidence, you've earned it, right? You have paid the price to earn that confidence that you will be able to turn it around. To those that perhaps may not have yet quite earned it, would you be able to just speak to some of the things they might need to check in on in the
Yeah.
middle of a losing streak?
Well, again, it's first being aware of like, okay, what's wrong right now?
Mhm.
Where am I losing money? Maybe why am I losing money? And always like take a break from the market, like just stop trading for a minute or a little bit and like get your process and your mindset right. Cause if you're going to come to the market every day and you don't feel good about things and you are in a losing streak and like you might be in some, financial stress or short-term things don't feel very good. If you come to the market like and you need to make money one day, like you are fighting a massive uphill battle. So I would honestly, I would just take a break. I would and not say you're taking some time off to go on a vacation or something, unless you need that little mental break. But like,
Mhm.
take that time to be insightful. Look at you have to, and I hope you'd have some way of tracking your P&L and seeing where am I making money, where am I losing money, being like accountable to yourself and like don't blame the market, don't blame what's going on. Say, hey, what am I doing that's causing myself to lose money or to not trade how I expect myself to trade, and what can I do to like better that and improve at it, and then come back to the market like with that mentality and mindset.
Mhm. What do you love most about trading?
I mean, especially for myself, that again, it's just like it feels like a battle, just me against the market every day, and there's no third party opinion on your performance or how you're doing or what you're doing. Um, I love that part of it, just the competition side of it. You
Mhm.
know, the competition against yourself, honestly, every day is cool. Every day is just a new opportunity. Like it's kind of hard to think of a career that you walk in and like every day could be the best day you've ever had. Or, you know, there's endless, there's a 10 billion different trades you can make every single day. And like you have like the creative flexibility to kind of do what you want to do inside of that and
Mhm.
to make the most out of what you have in front of you is pretty cool. There's nothing stopping you. There's no limit to like how good you could do. There's no barrier to entry on, you know, where you're gonna grow to or do something. You know, it's just a pretty cool environment for sure.
Mm. Life work balance. How do you balance time off? And if you were comfortable sharing, how do you take time off in is that philosophy you spoke about at the beginning when you're done and you go pay attention to other things. Just share a little bit about how you manage that life work balance because I think it can be tricky, especially for traders less than 5 years. They're trying to work hard, they're trying to up level themselves educationally, even perhaps emotionally, and then they don't know when to take those breathers or breaks. So,
Right.
what is your particular way of making sure you have a balance between the two?
Um, for me particularly, I now if there's stuff in my life that I want to do, I'm gonna take time off of work to do it. I think that's way more important for me. Like I think a lot of us are in this business or trade to give us the freedom to live our lives the way that we want to do it. So like if you're gonna try to be holding yourself to some like ridiculous P&L number and that's why you're trading, like I think you're in it for the wrong reasons for sure. Um, so for me, I want to do that. For anyone else, especially if you're first growing or you're first really getting going in your business, like you know when you're like burnt out or you know when you're doing too much. If you genuinely enjoy, you know, like at night looking at a bunch of charts and reading and learning, like just keep doing that. You know,
Yeah.
if it feels like a job or an obligation to do that stuff at night, like my own personal opinion is that you're gonna burn yourself out on that, and it just doesn't work. You know, and maybe then you recognize that this isn't really for you. If like the amount of work that it feels like you have to put in to be successful, like feels like really tough work,
Yeah.
then maybe it's not the right fit. But otherwise, just being aware and knowing if and when you might be burning yourself out, and again, looking at it from a longer term mentality, like maybe like, oh man, I really don't want to miss these 3 trading days. You know, things are trading really good now. Well, if you're better off taking a mental break for yourself, enjoying your life, then you can come back to the markets like with a fresh mind and ready to go. Like for your long-term success, you're gonna be way better off that way for sure.
Do you think you have always approached your trading with that long tail perspective as opposed to seeing it as a short?
No, I don't think so.
Mhm.
I think that's when you find yourself getting in trouble, you know, like
Yeah.
where you got to make the most you can every single day. And that's when you get FOMO on trades and you overtrade and you do stuff you shouldn't do, or then you try to get losses back and all that. So definitely not. I think that takes quite some time and some ability, and it's an ever evolving process on that side too. But that takes time.
Do you feel that is uh, just having traded for so many years? And or is it age? Is it just maturity in general that changes that perspective?
It's probably a little bit of both. I think you know, once you've been doing it long enough where you feel comfortable inside it, then it kind of allows you the freedom to do that.
Mhm.
I'm sure when you're first starting off and you're trying to build and you're trying to, you know, need to make money and you're trying to do that, it's probably not as easy to do. So I think it has to come with time and experience. And also, I guess if you're first starting off, that's why I mean, you might have the ability to do like coaching, but like to do as much like research as you can so that you could even understand for yourself that, you know, this isn't an overnight process. And if you could like somehow be lucky enough to be new to something, but have the awareness that this is going to be a process for you, like that would definitely be helpful. Otherwise, it's a live and learn, and you learn by making mistakes. That's pretty much the only other way to do it.
Yeah, it's such a great advice, and it's funny because I don't really hear that often spoken about that the trading is going to be a real process over many years. Look, it's not sexy, that statement,
No, for sure. And ideally, you would like to not have to go through tough times as a trader to learn those things about yourself and to learn it about the business, but that's just kind of reality. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who are just years ahead of themselves, maturity wise, and for the amount of learning about the markets that they're doing going into it. But more times than not, like, it's just going to be the case. And if you can accept that, that also, I think, helps with that mentality of like the longer term build out mentality on things.
For sure, for sure. Well, I have a lot more questions, but I also want to honor how much time you've already given us. What would you say you're most proud of with regards to these 17, 18 years as a trader? What are you most proud of, Jeremy?
I think just the ability to stay alive in this business, the ability to withstand good years, bad years, never like allow myself to feel too big when you have great years, and then allow myself, keep the confidence to rebuild back on the years that like aren't so good. And I think it's really difficult, especially when you're trading by yourself, to, like you said, manage your cash management properly, just your confidence in your process and like what you're doing trading wise. That's not easy to withstand, like good years, bad years, and all that through. So I'm definitely most proud of the fact that I've been able to kind of do that without, any real large extremes one way or the other.
It's an incredible testament to your discipline and your perseverance. It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any parting words to those traders who are watching this now, who are just like, Jeremy makes it look so easy?
Well, it's definitely not easy. And like I said, it takes years and years and, a lot of ups and downs and learning about yourself to get to a point where you have the luxury to have the confidence that like I do in it for sure. Not much more from an advice standpoint, except for just be willing to put the work in, being able to recognize what feels good and what doesn't. Being able to accept that it's a long-term process, not an overnight process, and knowing if that's, again, something that then lends you to wanting to do this. Do you even have the flexibility to learn and have the opportunity to do that? And then once you really get going, just to try to get a little bit better every single day. Don't expect perfectionism. Don't try for perfectionism. Be open-minded. Be ready to change with the markets on a daily, overnight basis. And just have fun with it. Like, I think this is like, to me, it feels like the most fun job I could possibly have. So I love that part of it.
What can traders find you on X? What's your handle?
I think it's J Aguiar Trades. So I'm not on there very often, but if anyone wanted to reach out to talk or have questions, I would be more than happy to.
That would be perfect. And I'm sure those very smart traders that are listening to this take you up on that, because it'll be the best time you spend with any trader. You're very generous, you're very thoughtful, and you're an inspiration, Jeremy. So thank you for coming on my podcast and for all that you give to other traders. You're always so encouraging to them. So
awesome. Thanks, Kim. That was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on, for sure.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode of the Wall Street Coach Podcast. Thank you for watching. I hope you have subscribed to the Wall Street Coach Podcast. And if you haven't, it's time to do so. See you on the next podcast.